Okay, so today's lesson is going to be on simple present tense, or what you do often. I'm doing this new way so you can see me when I'm teaching to you. Hello. Um, and we're going to review the different verb tenses um, just to get them in our brains and to remember them. And also, I'm going to teach you some that are more complicated. They're harder, but you'll be good, you'll be fine. We'll just keep reviewing, we'll just keep learning. So today is the simple present tense, or what you do often. We've learned this one, we talked about this one before we went on summer break, or before you stopped getting lessons from me. So this is how you make it. So you need a subject and you need a simple present verb. Now the subject can be anything. It could be my friend, it could be me, it could be the phone, it could be, it could be the plant, it could be anything. The subject is whoever, right? Or whatever. And we need the simple present verb. So, for example, I walk or we leave. So the subject is the person or the thing you are talking about. So the dog runs home. The dog is the subject. So that's what I mean when I say in English that, like, the subject. Who is the subject? What is the subject? Subject is the dog. It runs home. Now, this is the other thing that we've learned is that you can use pronouns. It is can be used to say instead of the dog. When we use a pronoun, it means that we're talking about someone or something generally. We're not saying specifically or exactly who we're talking about. So the dog runs home and it runs home means the same thing, except one is talking exactly about a dog and the other one is just saying it. It could be anything. It could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could be anything. So the next part is my family and I work during the week. So you'll see the bold my family and I. This part right here, my family and I, that is the subject. But we could also say we work during the week because we is talking about yourself and other people. It's plural because it's talking about you and other people. So that's why you can say my family and I. You could say we work during the week. So my family and I is the subject. We is the subject. Both are the subject. My coworkers leave at 4 p.m. So my coworkers is the subject. It's who the sentence is about. And in English, we need to know who the subject is because that tells us why we're talking about what we're talking about. So that's why it's important to know the word subject. The subject is my coworkers. You can always find the subject in a sentence by looking for what it's talking about. What is the sentence talking about? Who is the sentence talking about, right? So then we have they. They could be my coworkers. You could use they instead of saying my coworkers because they is other people that are not yourself, but it's plural. So it's lots of other people or a couple other people that are not you, right? Or the person that you're talking to. It's they, it's other people. So you could say my coworkers leave at 4 p.m. or you could say they leave at 4 p.m. So you could say, I eat breakfast every morning. I is the subject. You're talking about me. You work hard. You is the subject. So we can use I, you, he, she, it, we, they. These are called pronouns. Pronouns are basically things that we use to talk about people or things without saying exactly who they are. Like saying, instead of saying, he went to the store, you could say Mark went to the store. But if you just were talking about somebody and they didn't need to know what their name was, you could just say he went to the store, right? So that's what pronouns. So we can use pronouns as subject. So, for example, we've learned this before. Singular, one person or thing is I, he, she, it. Any of these. You can be talking about one person, like you are my friend, right? Or you could use it as plural. It could be you could be talking to a group of people and say, you need to sign up for this, you need to go here. And it would mean that every single one of them is who you were talking to, right? So we can use you as singular or plural, but in sentences, you treat it like it's singular, okay? So pronouns, I, you, she, he, it, and the plural, two or more persons, is we and they. Now, verbs. Verbs are words about action or things you can do, So they are like verb examples are run. You have somebody running. Go, eat. These are all verbs that you can use in English. So since verbs are about doing something, they're about an action, in English, you use verbs as a way to tell people what time something happened, like when it happened in time. So it could be before right now, which is the past, it could be right now, which is the present, or it could happen after right now, which is the future. So you'll see that you can make things past, present, or future through the verb. You can use present tense, simple present, which is what we're learning right now, which is walk. You can do walked, right? That's past tense. Or you could do walking, which is present progressive, right? So all of these are the same verb. They mean the same thing. They're just talking about what's happening. The action is happening at a different time from each other. So that's why it's important to understand tenses, or verb tense in English. So simple present verb is the most basic, the most simple, or it's the verb that we start with to make other tenses. So I have some examples here. Get, know, want, take, go, think, come, make, work, see, live, do. These are some simple present verbs. So all of these kinds of verbs, these are the verbs that we're going to use to make simple present tense, right, in a sentence. My little screen is covering it up. Okay, so this is how to make simple present tense, right? We learned this when I first started the lesson. You need a subject, which is a person, a place, or a thing, right? And you need the simple present verb, which is the most simple, the most basic verb you can have in English. These ones you just kind of have to memorize, which isn't very fun, but you'll get it. And you already know a lot of the verbs in English. So all you have to remember is when you're talking about something that you do a lot or something you do often, you need to use simple present verb, right? The most basic one. So I walk home. She drives to work. They work late. We go home at 3 p.m. So all of these have a subject, I, she, they, we, and they all have the simple present verb. So all of these are simple present tense, right? Okay, so how to make simple present tense. I'm going to move my little thing again, my little video. So, okay, sorry. So how to make simple present tense if you use the pronoun he, she, or it. Now, this is the hard part about this. Seems really simple, but if you use a pronoun, he, she, or it, like if you say, if you're talking about a he or a she or an it, you need to add an S to the end of the verb And when the subject can be a he, a she, or an it, so if you say my mom or my dad, if it's the subject that you're talking about, the person that you're talking about could be a he, a she, or an it, um, then you need to put an S at the end of the verb, like right here. So this sentence says, I work at the hospital. The next sentence says, he works at the hospital. So since it says he, even though we're using the simple present tense verb, which is work, we need to add an S to the end of it. So he works at the hospital. Or if you were going to say my husband is a he, my husband works at the hospital. So we need to put the S on the end. We live in the apartment. So since this one isn't a he, she, or it, we just say we live in the apartment, right? But if you said she lives, you need to add an S to the end of the verb. She lives in the apartment. So even though we're adding something to the verb, it doesn't change the tense. If you add an S to the end of the verb, it's not going to change the tense. She lives in the apartment. Your sister, that's a she, lives in the apartment. You come late every morning. It comes late every morning. The bus comes late every morning. So that's just to show you how we add the S to the end of the verb, if it's a he, she, or an it, or if we're talking about something that could be a he, she, or an it. So basically, if it's talking about one other person or thing, just one, and it's not you, okay? But you, we need to not put an S at the end, even though you is another person that isn't yourself. We call it third person, he, she, or it. You're talking about somebody else, and there's only one of them, you need to put an S at the end of the verb. So it comes late every morning, or the bus comes late every morning, or my boss comes late every morning. You know, my manager comes late every morning. My daughter goes to school late. That's another one. Okay, simple present tense. Let me move my little video up again. Okay, simple present tense. So we've got it. I walk, you walk, she walks, he walks, it walks, right? But we walk, they walk. So if you're talking about he, she, or it, those are the only ones you need to add an S to for simple present tense, right? This is all the same tense. This is all talking about the same time in English. So we're going to practice. So we have I, she, they, my mom. These are all subjects, right? My mom is a subject, they, because they're all the people or the thing that we're talking about. Know, lives, run, takes, those are all verbs, right? So in the morning, let's use the verb run. And let's use I. I run in the morning. That's how we would make simple present tense. You have a subject, you have the verb in the simple present tense, and then you have the rest of the sentence. I run in the morning. So you can make another one. Run, they run in the morning. All right? You could say she takes, right? So the verb takes, it has an S on the end, so that means we need to use she, because that's the only one that we can use with that. We couldn't say I takes the bus. No, that doesn't work, because you only put an S at the end of the verb if it's he, she, or it, or you're talking about a he, she, or an it, right? So a person, place, or thing that isn't you, and there's only one. So she takes the bus. My mom takes the bus. That works, because my mom is a she, right? Let's do another one. So lives. So we know that we need to use, from the subjects that we have, we need to use she or my mom. My mom lives with me. Again, we're using lives. she lives with me. So that's why we have to use the S. If you used I or they instead of my mom or she, it would say or I guess it says with me. So I live with my brother, or they live with their brother. So you wouldn't put an S on the end. But since it says my mom or she, you have to put an S at the end. So the verb is know. There's no S. So that means we have to say I, or we can use they. I know how to speak English. They know how to speak English. Good job. So this is how this says how to use simple present tense. So this is why we use it in English. This is why we talk about it the way we do. So we use simple present tense to tell people that whatever we're talking about happens a lot. It happens often. It happens repeated. It happens all the time. Or it's something that we just do a lot. It's something that we do every day, or something that we do when we do something else. So it's not even though it's present tense, meaning now, it doesn't mean that it's happening in the moment. Doesn't mean that we're doing it right now. It tells us that it's something that happens to us a lot. So even though it says present, it still means right now, but it's not talking about something that you're doing right now. So nope, doesn't talk about right now in the moment, but it's talking about something that happens to you a lot. So when you say, I walk to the bus, when you say that to somebody in English, they hear it and they say, okay, I know that when they say that I walk to the bus, it means that they don't drive to the bus, they don't ride their bike to the bus. It means that when they go to the bus, that they walk. It doesn't mean that they are walking to the bus right now. Nope, doesn't mean that. When they say, I walk to the bus, it means I do it a lot. Whenever I go to the bus, I walk. That's what that means. So if you said, she helps me, my friend, she helps me, it means that your friend helps you a lot. We come to work at 7. That one, same thing. It means that whenever you go to work at 7. That means you come to work at 7. Same time every day. So if somebody asked you, what time do you go to work with your coworkers, with your friends? You say, we come to work at 7. Or if somebody was asking you, oh, hey, what time does your department, what time does EVS get to the hospital? You would say, oh, we come at 7, or we come to work at 7. And the person will know that every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, everybody comes to work at 7. So that's what that means. So I walk to the bus, this one right here, I walk to the bus, is different from I am walking to the bus. I walk to the bus, I am walking to the bus. I walk to the bus means you do it a lot. It means you do it every day. I am walking to the bus, that means right now. Got it? Okay, so like I said, I walk to the bus means you do it a lot, and I am walking to the bus is right now. So if somebody's asking you, or you're talking to somebody about what's happening right now, you're not going to use simple present tense, because this one, like if somebody said, what are you doing right now? And you said, I walk to bus, or I walk to the bus, they would understand what you were trying to say, but the correct way to say in English is I am walking to the bus. But if somebody says, how do you get to your bus stop? How do you get to the bus? If you said, oh, I am walking to the bus, but you were talking to them, they would be like, what? you're walking to the bus, that means you're doing it right now. So that's why it's important to understand what the difference is between saying, I walk or I run, or I am walking or I am running. So these are two different verb tenses, right? This is progressive or continuous, right? Walking. And this is walk, which is simple present tense, meaning that you do it a lot. So it's present, which means now, but it means that you do it a lot. Kind of confusing, I know. But just remember that if it's just this and it has an S at the end, or if it's just a simple verb, you can use it with the subject and you just put those two together and it means that you do it a lot. So, simple present verb. Which is the simple present verb, right? So we've got working, works, worked, and work. I work at home. Simple present verb is work. She works at home. Works is another simple present verb. Working and worked are not simple present verbs. So now we're going to look at if something is simple present tense and something is simple present verb. I go home at 3. So I go home at 3, you have the subject with the simple present verb together in a sentence. That's simple present tense. When you're using a tense, that means that you're using it together. You're using the simple present verb with the subject, you're using it together in a sentence. That's tense. Go, that's just by itself, that's a verb. That's a simple present verb. I see my family on the weekend. Simple present tense. See, that's a simple present verb. So that's what that is. Pretty easy. So a verb is just this little word right here. It's the action word. Simple present verb is the most basic verb you can have. It's the most simple verb, right? And we use it in simple present tense, which simple present tense is what we use to talk about something that we do a lot, something that happens a lot, something that's repeated. So parts of, that says present tense. So I live with my sister. So we have the subject. Who or what are we talking about? I, you, he, she, it, they, we, those are all pronouns. Or we could say, talk about something exactly, like the bus, the car, my family, the supervisor, or my supervisor. That's who the subject is. And then we need the simple present verb. Here are some simple present verbs. Walk, drive, stay, talk, sit, run, go, do, take, come. Those are all simple present verbs. So, now we're going to talk about how you make the simple present tense negative. So, meaning the opposite. So, when you say, I work on Saturday, that means, yes, I am at work on Saturday. When you make it negative, I work on Saturday, to make it negative, you put do not. And that, when you do that, when you say, I do not work on Saturday, when you say that, it means no. I work on Saturday, yes. I do not work on Saturday, no. That means no. So all we have to do to make it negative, meaning no, you just put do not in between the subject and the simple present verb. So all we're doing is you're putting something in between to tell them, no, I don't. But instead of saying, I no work on Saturday, in English, the correct way to say it is, I do not. I do not work on Saturday. So let's make these negative. So the first one says, I live with my family. And we want to say that that's no, we do not. So what we do is we say, I do not live with my family. And that's how we make it negative. we just put do not in between the subject, I, and the verb, live, this simple present verb. They drive to work. They do not drive to work. So we made a negative. They do not drive to work instead of they drive to work. So if you were talking to somebody at lunch and they said, "Oh, what time does how does Julia get to work?" You would say, "Oh, they or she drives to work." But if somebody asks, "Oh, how does Rosa get to work?" And you say, "Oh, they do not drive to work," right? They do not drive to work. So that's how you use it in English. So if you're talking to somebody and they want to know what somebody does regularly or what happens a lot, that's when you would use simple present tense. The next one, we make dinner at 5. To make it negative, we do not make dinner at 5. Good job. My coworkers and I do not eat lunch together. That's how we make it negative. So we call it, when it means yes, a fancy word in English is to say affirmative. Affirmative just means yes, right? So my coworkers and I eat lunch together. My coworkers and I do not eat lunch together. No, that one means no. So we talked about this before. There's contractions. So a contraction is two little words that get squished together and they make one word, right? And one of the ways that we know that it's a contraction, it's two words squished together, is this little thing right here, this little line. So do not can be don't. We do not eat at restaurants means the same thing as we don't eat at restaurants. They mean the same thing, same. It's just do not can be said as don't. You can say don't. I don't live in Las Vegas. I do not live in Las Vegas. Both mean the same thing. Both mean no. Now, simple present tense. Just to review, this one, it gets a little hard when you're trying to turn it into a negative. So remember how we had to do this fancy thing to the end of the verbs? We have to put an S at the end. She walks, he walks, it walks. Well, we have to do the same thing when it's a negative, but it's a little bit trickier than before. So if you said she lives here, but you wanted to make it negative, you can't say she do not lives here. Even though it makes sense in English rules from what we just learned, English is weird and they have rules that don't make it easy to learn. So what you have to say in English is she does not live here. So instead of just putting do not, you have to do some extra steps. So it's not she do not lives here if you want to make it negative. It's she does not live here. So what you do is you take the affirmative, the yes, the positive, yes, she lives here. So what we're going to do is put in do not. She do not lives here. What we do is we put this little s that's on this verb, right? Because we had to do it because it says she. We put the s over on do to say does. And then we get rid of the s, since we moved it over here, we get rid of it at the end of the verb right here. So what we end up saying is she does not live here, and that means negative. Got it? So contractions for does not, just like do not, is doesn't. So you can say don't or doesn't for the negative. So he does not eat at restaurants is the same as he doesn't eat at restaurants. My mom doesn't live in Las Vegas is the same as my mom does not live in Las Vegas. All right, so now we're going to make simple present tense negative. We're going to have some practice. I drive to work. I do not drive to work. Made it negative. He lives with me. He does not live with me. The bus leaves early. So this one's using the bus, which is an it. So we have to put an S. So that means we say does not instead of do not. The bus does not leave early. So when you're using this in English in a conversation, some of the reasons you would have to use this would be, if somebody said, "Oh, do you take the bus or do you drive to work?" Right? Do you drive to work? You could say, I do not drive to work, or I don't drive to work, meaning every day, all the time, I don't drive to work. Or if you said, oh, like someone came over to your house and they saw someone else there and they said, oh, does he live here? Or who is this? You could say, oh, he lives with me. Or you could say, oh, he does not live with me. That's what you could say. So here's some more practice. My supervisor gets to work late. You want to make it negative. My supervisor does not get to work late. We see many people at work. We don't see many people at work. We don't see a lot of people, or we do not see many people at work, right? Because this don't is a contraction of do not. They take the train. They do not take the train. All right, so making questions. This one's pretty easy. You live in West Valley. We got the subject, which is right here, you, and we've got live, which is the verb, the simple present verb. All we have to do is put do at the beginning of the sentence. Do you live in West Valley? And we call it a question mark instead of a period. This lets us know in writing that it's a question. Do you live in West Valley? And we just put it at the end. So when we make a question in English with the simple present tense, all we say is do you? You just put do in the front. So if you're wondering, you live in West Valley? If you want to make it a question, do you live in West Valley? He lives in West Valley. Make it a question. How do we do that? Oh, see? There's that little S at the end. This one, they spell it with the ES, but it just says does. But it's like putting an S at the end of the verb, right? When he lives or she lives or it lives. Does. We get rid of the S on the verb and we put it after do. Does he live in West Valley? We made it a question. And all we had to do was put does at the beginning of the sentence in front of the subject. And we just leave the subject and the verb, the simple verb, right where they're at. So we're going to make all of these questions. I act rude. What do we have to do? Do. Do I act rude? Put the question mark at the end. Make it a question. She helps them. Does, since it's she, there's a little S at the verb, right? He, she, it. Put an S at the end. Since we're asking a question, we get rid of the S on the verb and we say does. Does she help? No S. Help them. Does she help them? Important to remember, make sure you take the S off of the verb. And so you say, does she help them? Instead of, does she helps them? That doesn't work. You need to say, does she help them? Don't need to keep the S. Since we put the S over here on the do, we're good. We don't need to keep the S on the verb. They work together. Do they work together? It's a question. The bus runs late. Does, the bus is an it, right? Does the bus run late? Made it a question. Okay, so let's see what time it is. How much? We'll go over one of these really quick. So this is a simple present tense conversation, how you use it in a conversation. So we're going to use the example that there are two neighbors and they're talking on the phone with each other. So this lady says, "Hi, Jackie. It is your neighbor, Marie. Do you have time to help me this week?" And her neighbor, Jackie, says, "Hi, Marie. I am very busy with work this week. What do you need help with?" Okay, I'm gonna move my little thing. I'll move it right here. I need help. I need someone to take my dog for a walk while I am on vacation. I will be gone for a week. What is your schedule like? So you'll see that she uses the simple present tense, right? Which doesn't mean what's happening right now, but it's something that is happening a lot. She says, "I need help," right? I need someone to take my dog for a walk. So that means that she needs somebody to do this for her, right? Now, Jackie says, "I work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So instead of saying, "Oh, I work on Monday from 8 to 4, I work on Tuesday to 8 to 4, I work on Wednesday, instead of having to say all of that, all she has to say is, "I work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And her neighbor, the person that she's talking to, knows, okay, when she says, "I work," it means that she does it a lot, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So that means I know that during the day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., that's when she's at work. And that's a lot. She does it every day. So instead of having for this person, Jackie, to say all of that, she just says, "I work," simple present tense. She says, "I work from this time to this time, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The person that's talking to her knows, okay, that means that they do it a lot. That means that's an all the time thing. I leave my house at 7 a.m. and get back home around 5:15 p.m. Again, I leave my house at 7 a.m. So she's telling her neighbor, this is what I do a lot. This is what my schedule is. And we can use simple present tense when we're talking about schedules or stuff that is happening in our life, because it's something that we do a lot. It's something that we do repeated. So that's why we would use it in a conversation, and that's how you use it in a conversation. If her neighbor called and said, "Hey, Jackie, what are you doing right now?" And she said, "Oh, I work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I leave my house at 7 a.m. The person on the phone would be like, "Why are you telling me what you do all the time? I'm asking you what you are doing right now." But if she said, "Oh, I am working from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., that would mean in the moment. But right now, what we're talking about, what we use to talk about our schedules, what we do repeated all the time, we say, "I work." Subject, simple present verb together, put them together, and it makes simple present tense. It tells somebody, this is what's happening, this is what I do a lot, this is what I do often. If you say, you could say, "I need help." That one, it's talking about it a lot. When you say, "I need help," even though if you said, "Oh, hey, I need help," that means you need help right now, right? So that's kind of weird. Why would you use "I need help" instead of "I am needing help"? You say, "I need help," because for this person, for Marie, she needs help a lot. She needs somebody to come over and take care of her dog. So that means she's needing help a lot of days. So that's why she uses it. So that's it for today. I'll send you this video. We'll keep working on verb tense. If it gets too boring, if you think that this is too easy, let me know. Tell me. If you think it's too hard, if I'm talking too fast, which I think I am. I think I talked too fast in this lesson. Just let me know. Okay, so that's it for today. I'll see you